and then you stop for a late lunch. Really, you don't need to do much skiing after that. That's when the Rosé comes out. That's where the après ski starts, and that's what spring skiing is all about.
Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the latest episode of the PISTE Podcast. Today we are joined by Rupert, our inimitable leader and founder here at Oxford Ski Company, and Dan, who joins us from our hotel team. How are you both doing?
Fantastic. Very much enjoying this time of the year.
And sunshine.
Very happy to be here. It's sunshine outside, and sunshine hopefully where everyone else is as well. But really excited to be on the podcast.
Brilliant. I'm glad to have you both in. Thanks for stepping away from your desks. I know it always feels like it should be a quiet time of year, but it never is. This is one of the busiest booking times of year. We've come out of the back end of the season, which was absolutely fantastic, and we'll get on to talking about. But how did the season wrap up for you guys? How did you feel everything went?
27th ski season for the Oxford Ski Company, which slightly scares me when I say it, but a really, really good season all round. And I say that with great confidence and belief because it just ticked the boxes this year in a really lovely way. And so kind of to have a busy and an end of good weather, good skiing, good fun was the perfect way to finish it. But it really was, I think, as good a season as I think we can sign off.
I would agree.
Absolutely, I would completely agree. And I think that's been the feeling throughout the entire season, throughout the entire year. And it's bleeding now into next winter with people looking to book earlier than ever.
Yeah.
And whilst this was typically a quieter period in previous years gone by, where we'd be thinking, that's it, season done, wrap up, do some more admin tasks and stuff to get ready for next winter. Everyone's, straight back in on bookings, which is brilliant to see, and hopefully leading to an equally as good year next year.
Yeah, I mean, proof of a good season, is it, when the excitement carries through from the end of one holiday and immediately want the next one booked in, even though you've got your summer holidays planned in. Yeah, well, don't go on a summer holiday, just put it onto the ski holiday for next season.
Well, exactly. I don't do summer holidays.
Go to the mountains. Yeah, I think people still, and going back to what you said at the beginning, people still sometimes say to me, so what do you do in the summer? Which I tend to just say, oh, nothing. We just relax and kick back. But the reality is not that. And it is, in some ways, it is peak booking season for next year and highlighted more, Dan, as you just said, because people came back from their weeks at Easter or at half term or New Year, whatever time is away, just going, that was great. That is the mountains, the holiday I've just been on, the skiing, ticked all those boxes. Bring that to me next year. So it had that level of excitement and buzz. And people often say, why? Or perhaps you are thinking, why? We can control a good number of factors. That's what we do here. We're hopefully selling you the right holidays, the right places, the right time. That's Dan's job in the hotel team. But the bits we can't control are things like weather. And we love talking about weather as a nation, but particularly involved in the ski industry. It's a huge topic.
Without weather, we have nothing.
Exactly. And it just delivered the right bits at the right time. The snow came when it was needed, just before the season started, in time for the sort of festive Christmas, New Year holidays. And then we had sunshine. People want the sunshine. They want the snow and they want the sunshine. The same thing happened over the busy February holidays, and the same thing happened over the busy spring Easter holidays. So it literally did just continue to deliver all the way through. And I think it showed that skiing holidays are about skiing, but also about just being in that amazing mountain environment. And the weather, if you can see the mountains, that's when you start really enjoying them.
Absolutely. And then we've seen that uplift in summer alpine trips as well. It's still about being in the mountains. It's just a magnificent place to be. As per the backdrop behind you suggests, I mean, who wouldn't like to be hanging out in Courchevel right now, be it in the summer or winter? And I'm always fascinated that actually we think about winter holidays and summer holidays being somehow aligned, but actually when we sell a chalet for festive or Easter, once that property's gone, there isn't another one of it to book.
No,
that is the only one.
That's the crazy thing with chalets. It's that is the thing, and once it's gone, it really is gone. So, I mean, with hotels, it's slightly different. In they often have multiple suites or a few rooms of a certain category. But even with those, there's only a finite amount, and once they're gone, they're very much gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rupert, you went away Val d'Isère early April.
Yes, I had 2 and a bit weeks early April, and it was just, I would say, the best skiing I've had for many, many years.
You had a storm come through just before
We
you
had a
went out.
storm at the beginning. I always refer to them as April showers. We often get winter returns. It still is winter at the top of the mountains. It's still winter in the mountains. And we had a really good dump of snow, and we're skiing kind of meter deep powder for a few days. You had to go a little bit further to find it on the sort of third day. But it was great. But then at the same time, it was doing what it should do at that time of year. It was warmer, it was sunnier. So then that powder snow went to spring snow. So then we were doing some amazing sort of touring and looking for that, what the Americans call the corn snow, whereby you're waiting for it just to having frozen. Every night it froze, which was perfect. So it refroze every night. And just as the sun hit the slopes and in the morning, just when it's beginning to melt, you're skiing down these sort of lovely pieces of snow, which are very forgiving, very friendly, open to all levels. Everyone thinks, I think you've got to be a high standard. I was doing it with my children, who are very good skiers, but you can all do it. And I think that's what's also fun about being a little bit more adventurous, going off piste at that time of year with a guide. Always get a guide, because they'll be able to get it absolutely right for you. But we took a few friends who hadn't done it before, and they were like, I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think I was a good enough skier. And very quickly they realized that is not the case. And so I think one thing when we talk about spring snow, spring skiing, and that time of year to go away, is it's a really good opportunity for an intermediate skier to go and explore skiing off-piste and touring and taking themselves a little bit out of just not their comfort zone, but just away from the busy piste, I suppose, and then perhaps realizing even more how special the mountains are. So yes, I was fortunate to have some amazing days, and came back and still got the smile on my face as I think about it and talk about it now.
And you're right, everything feels more accessible in the spring. There are so many fewer challenges that are faced by, especially with families.
Yeah,
For sure.
And it's you're sort of skiing, but you're also wearing a sun hat, and it's kind of where are you? It's kind of like everything going on. It's like fantastic.
Yeah, and then sadly you weren't able to join us on our end of season trip. Just to remind you again.
Thank you.
But Dan and I were lucky enough to head off to Zermatt, which I hadn't ever been to before, and it was
first
a
time
fantastic
skiing there for me as well. Actually, yeah.
You've been this summer.
Had been for a few days in the summer, whilst stunning and beautiful in the summer. And you can actually ski in Zermatt over the summer period. There's a glacier, which it allows for skiing year round. What I hadn't quite anticipated was how amazing the skiing there would be in April time. I think I've been to skiing in April now for the last 4 years straight.
And this was end of April.
This was end of April, yeah. So each of the last 4 years that I've skied in April has been the 22nd, 23rd and 24th, around that time of April, which is, you'd think that would be the time that the season would be winding to a close.
Yeah.
But in Europe, if you pick the right place, it really is, going just as strong as the rest of the year. And one of my favourite things was on the last day, to be able to go right up to the top of the Matterhorn Glacier Paradise and ski one run, 2,200 meters from 3,800 meters all the way down to the town at 1,600 meters was, it was my legs were on fire by the end of it for sure. But to be able to experience that right at the end of April was just amazing. And going back to what Rupert said as well, it wasn't just myself. I've skied a lot, many years. But there was a couple in our team that have, let's say, more beginner skiers, and the experience that they had this year, being able to ski with it being, sunshine and the stunning views of the Matterhorn, really changed that experience of learning. Whereas, going at another time of year, whilst it's
feels
still
like
great,
survival.
It does. It's very cold. In January it can be minus 15 and or snowing, and it provides a very different experience when you're learning to ski. So I think that's some of the other magic about springtime skiing for sure.
And you say 24th, 25th, 26th. We were out there 28th, 29th.
Yeah.
And came back on the 30th.
Yeah, well, Val d'Isère, for example, in France, that actually stayed open right into May this year. They had such a strong end to the season, and it was really, really good. I was lucky enough to not just do Zermatt, but I had a bit of a journey around Austria and Switzerland at the beginning of April as well, going to St Anton, Andermatt, and Verbier. So Andermatt and Verbier being in Switzerland, St Anton being in Austria, all three of the destinations, whilst vastly different in character, had excellent snow. There was even a bit of powder skiing in Andermatt, and which is again brilliant for that time of year. Rupert, you were talking about the off-piste there.
Yeah, it's there's certainly lots of smiles coming back into the office on the Monday morning after the fam trip, and the feedback from our lovely clients who travelled all over those weeks was just all the same things, like, wow, that skiing was good. Wow, it's a good time of year to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys coming back from Zermatt was
Yeah.
And I think we've done 3 or 4 fam trips there. And we're doing one of my daughter, who's now 16 and first time skiing. She was tiny. I don't think she actually skied, but I taught her to say that I have skied the Matterhorn. So when she got back, that's what she told everyone she had been doing. And she still tells people that. She didn't obviously ski the Matterhorn. But yeah, I think it's overall sometimes an underused time of the year to go. And I think it is obviously right to pick the resorts wisely, and that's what we're here for, to advise which resorts do stay open properly until until the 1st of May, like Val d'Isère just mentioned by Dan. And discussing the sort of pros and cons, but it's definitely a time of year that people just in their mindset think, oh, it's too late. There won't be any snow, which is just simply not the case.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible for it not to be the case. Yes, the lower resorts or in towns, it's turning more spring-like. There were the crocuses and the wildflowers coming out on the southerly facing slopes in Val d'Isère, but on the higher slopes and the north facing, it was still midwinter.
Yeah.
So it's just getting a little bit more confidence that one can go and enjoy it. And I think it was case in point was when you guys skied in Zermatt.
I do have this unfounded, completely illogical thought. I always sit and look out the window at the office and I think, well, if it's raining here, it's probably snowing at altitude, so it must be great out in the Alps. And we did certainly have a good time. It's definitely the latest I've ever skied in the season by a long shot. But skiing off the glacier down for lunch and sitting outside and, jacket comes off and you sat there just in a T-shirt or thermal top, having a lovely glass of rosé and a nice long lunch, rather than huddling inside to find some space.
Yeah,
and being crowded in.
It's a different thing. The mountain restaurants, I love going into them when it's been blizzard outside and cold, and then you get all warm and toasty. And then at the same time, sitting on those terraces, there are barbecues going on. It is kind of, rosé bottles and people just having almost like it's the summer. It's like a sort of release. And I think there's no doubt there's people getting as much pleasure out of that as they are out of the skiing.
Yeah.
But it is, a mountain lunch in the spring is a really hard thing.
It's a treat.
It is. I mean, I know I did coax you out for one more run after lunch in Zermatt, which was maybe made you a little bit more tired in the evening. But
turned into adventure skiing on the way back into the village.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely my favourite way to ski. I think gone are the days for me from getting up first thing in the morning, skiing every minute of every day and coming back down. I mean, of course, there's loads of people that like to do that, but I love to ski throughout the morning, take a late lunch, because, I mean, if you're skiing over the period of, say, 12 till 2 p.m., that's the time when lots of people are having lunch themselves, so it really makes the slopes even quieter than what they would normally be in March or April time. And then you stop for a late lunch. Really, you don't need to do much skiing after that. That's when the rosé comes out. That's where the après ski starts, and that's what spring skiing is all about for me, for sure.
Yeah, and it is longer days. It's lovely. It's light until 6 o'clock or later actually, and so as opposed to sort of 4 o'clock when it starts getting dark and certainly the sun's gone in the bottom in the resorts in the midwinter. So, lifts are open until 5, a little bit later in some. I certainly was quite often on the last run down, everything has gone quiet, and it's a really beautiful time to be coming off the mountain that evening light. So you got longer days, warmer days, still got good snow, generally quieter because a lot of people have done their skiing for the year and moved on to other destinations or other lovely places to go. But it does come with that benefit. It is never going to be as busy as the popular New Year times or the European holidays, middle of February. And I think that's worth taking note. And that also then comes with, the price point comes down.
Very much so.
And, it is not a peak date, therefore. And so with a little bit of clever advice from us, then I think you can, your pounds or your euros can stretch a bit further to get to still get the most amazing experience. So I think all of those points to me strongly lead to why spring skiing, Easter skiing is certainly to be tried if it's something you haven't done, or perhaps if you're going for the first time with your family and you're not quite sure and the children are learning, and is this something you want to commit to? It's a really good time to be starting, perhaps over and above, say, New Year for a family when everything's very busy. There's resorts are at, they're at their maximum capacity. And so, beginning and learning at that time is a bit more stressful, I would say. It's not to say it's not possible, because we do plenty of that people too, but I would advise going at the spring for kicking off your sort of first time ski experience for families and children.
And we say it is quieter.
Yes.
And availability of properties, we didn't see a queue for a ski lift really, apart from the extremely large gondolas that head up and hold 6,500 people. But apart from those ones, it's a ski down, pretty much ski onto the chair or the smaller gondolas. From a property perspective, Dan, you'll know this inside and out. Locations, properties, what was the popularity this year for it, given the conditions that came down? There was a lot of late season snow, and people we know made a lot of last minute bookings to head out.
They did. I think, there was a few hotels which actually, extended their opening. They had originally planned to look at some of the properties in the Italian Dolomites, who had originally planned to kind of start winding things down in mid-March. They got, such great snow towards the end that they actually thought, you know what, we're going to stay open for a few weeks longer, get the last minute bookings. And because of that, because they were taking those last minute, bookings, the slopes were so much more quiet. And people were getting entire pistes to themselves, which is it's really the dream. And when you're sleeping at night and you're thinking of going down a piste, there's no one else around you, and that's that was a reality for a lot of skiers who are going in the Dolomites in spring, because it's not usually a time where you can ski. So no, I think it's it really was an excellent extension for a lot of the places, for sure.
And the availability of, I guess, infrastructure. So restaurants still open and operating as normal. We saw in Zermatt, everything was open.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly up the main glacier. Ski guides, transfers, things like that. Did they extend, or are they just carrying on?
I don't think they had the need to extend, because their staff are out there for the whole season anyway. And if the season goes longer, then they're still there. But what does change, I would say, is there's far more easily accessible availability at a last minute date. So when you're skiing at, say, Christmas, New Year, the middle of February, for example, we can absolutely get you a ski guide and we can get you instructors, etc. But there is the need to book early, and these do book out months in advance, let's say. But there's a lot more flexibility to get the guiding, to get the restaurant reservation, to get the extra concierge side of things at a last minute date when you're spring skiing as well. So, you're not having to plan this out, months, maybe even a year in advance. It's something that you can just look at the weather and go, that looks amazing, I'm going to go out and do that. Mm-hmm. And we can sort that from there.
Yeah, and there's less chance of having to compromise. If there's 10 crucial things you're looking to tick when you're planning to go away skiing, we obviously want to try and tick all 10.
Yeah.
And at Easter, because everything is kind of available, there's more space, there's nothing is as busy, you basically should be able to tick all 10 of those boxes. And even if it's quite last minute, whereas that is harder to do for example, on a last-minute holiday over the festive period, because it's just not going to be. You're just going to we'll find things, but it might not be quite what you're after. It doesn't mean it won't be a good time, but it's just a bit more satisfying being able to really tick those boxes for people.
Yeah, I think there's no choosing where Christmas falls, is there, or festive, or Easter, or the like. So if you have the freedom for spring, then you are a little bit more open to changing things and your own plans.
Yeah.
I'd never had a ski guide before, and it was interesting to have a ski guide.
How did you find it?
Inbounds. I'd had a ski guide in Canada, out of bounds, but I thought it was great when you don't know a resort to have someone who can actually say, okay, we're going to ski until 11:45 and have a coffee, to actually know where you're going to end up at that point was completely novel to me. Because you just end up somewhere really obscure and go, where's this cafe? And I mean, I think about it for off-piste, but not inbounds. Yeah,
so many times. I'm a nightmare for not looking at a piste map when I'm skiing. I get to the top of the lift and I go, that's down that way or down that way, and I'll pick one of them, and where I end up is where I end up, and then I have to try and kind of work my way back. But actually having a guide to take that, not stress, but to know that I'm definitely getting back at the right time is something that was really useful and good.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most underused expenses that people should look at before they book a going away. And it's hard because you call it a ski guide and people think, oh my God, I'm not good enough to have a ski guide, or is it a ski instructor, or is it it's a kind of combination of everything. I always like to have someone to ski with who's a professional. A, I think you can always get better at skiing, and B, you're just gonna, overall, you're got this day on the mountain, you're with your friends, with your family, there's lots of moving parts, and you're gonna get the best out of it with someone who's gonna know exactly where to go, what time of day, just lead you, experience, give you the local history, the culture, tell you more about the place.
Agreed.
And I look at quite a few friends and think, you should just spend a bit of money on these ski guides or instructors. It's not always about learning, it's about actually adding to your experience on the mountain. But too often I hear conversations in the room next door, people going, oh no, I don't need that, I've skied a lot. But actually it's just worth it. You're spending quite a lot of money on a holiday. There's no two ways around about it. It is expensive. So that little bit extra, if it's just even for a few days to get you going at the beginning, to really get you out there, is so well worth. What is it? There's sort of 400 to 500 euros a day, a bit less for half a day. About that, it's about right.
It's at that time of year, I would say.
So
it's
right. Break that between a few of you. Look at all the other things you're spending money on. It's as a percentage, it's not a lot more. So I
have to say, when I was told we had guides, I am instantly tensed up and thought, oh no, I don't. I've been skiing since I was 18 months old. Don't have someone try and teach me out of my bad ways that I've got ingrained. I don't need to actually learn how to ski now.
Did they?
No, well, that was the beauty.
Felix has got a lovely technique. He's lying to everyone.
She said to us, do you want me to give input? And it was on an individual basis. So one of the group of us, I think there were 6 of us skiing in our group. If one individual said, oh yeah, I'd like some pointers, that person would get them. But she didn't feel that, she was forced to actually be a ski instructor. She was there to guide us around the resort and send us to the best place and pick the best snow at the best time of day and all those things. So
good.
It was a revelation to me.
Yeah, and I think it was, they have a lot of fun when they get a group like that as well. They get to stretch their legs and ski around, and I think that's part of the beauty of that. But I think also one other thing that we haven't spoken about, which getting even a guide or an instructor does, particularly in Zermatt, give you is access to areas which aren't necessarily open to the rest of the public. In Zermatt, there's a whole area of the mountain which you can only go on if you are a guide, a certain level of instructor, or
you're a high mountain guide
someone,
because of the glaciers.
And what that gives you is, fresh snow that is untracked by the mass, public, that is, more exclusive, that, you're not just getting the instruction, but you're getting the added touches which you wouldn't necessarily have had before.
Yeah, that's true. And you can get the ski guide access on the lift queues. That can help.
Yes, always.
But yeah, I think it's a really, really worthwhile thing to consider when you're planning, is to actually put some money into the budget for ski guide instruction, whichever you want to call it.
At any time of year.
I've been sold. And you're right. By the time you split it between a group of you and you've already spent all that money getting out there, it's a marginal increase in cost and the value you get in return for it to actually enjoy the place that you are. With skiing especially important. We've all been skiing this spring. We've all had a wonderful time. But the question I always ask at the end of these podcasts is that if you got to choose any time of skiing and anywhere to go, if you were leaving tomorrow, assuming tomorrow is any time of the year you want it to be and not actually whatever date it is tomorrow, where would you pick and why? And who would you go with?
Well, if I was leaving tomorrow, let's go with that. I would go to where I went this time last year. I'd go out to Iceland and stay at a place called Farm and do the skiing of the spring snow, the corn snow, the heli skiing. I'd be there like an absolute shot. I would definitely that, and I would like to go there with a really good group of friends.
And this is a whole different type of experience that we've been talking to.
Yeah, so this is exactly a totally different experience. I mean, you can ski basically in sort of in higher sort of regions of the Arctic and areas well into June really, and Iceland is definitely a place for that. Greenland is another place for that, and there are some incredible experiences, some involving boats, yachts, some involving incredible lodges in these remote places. And we're beginning to do more of it. And I think it is just something truly special. If you're a skier and you really, really want to push the boat out for something original, that's to be continued. So, yes, if I was going tomorrow, I'd go straight back there and to be able to ski from a mountain right down to the sea with a chance of seeing whales coming past.
Yeah.
And then actually, even we did one afternoon, and go paddleboarding in the sea was quite extraordinary as well at that time of year, albeit in proper dry suits.
Yeah, there's so much more that you can do.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, and just to caveat that is an experience that a family can do. It's not inaccessible.
Definitely, I would go with my family. 100%. I go. It is not inaccessible. I mean, it comes at a price. That must probably makes it more inaccessible.
Different accessibility.
It is. The skiing we were doing now, you can very much tailor to blue, red, black diamond runs. You really
just without the markers.
Without the markers. So it is again a bit of a myth on actually heli skiing. Is everyone thinks I'm not good enough and I've got to be a really, really hardcore, extremely advanced skier. Absolutely not at all. All the great places you can do it, again, can be split into the advanced and the intermediate. And some even say it's a great place to learn because to learn to ski powder in the powder is there. So, but the spring skiing isn't that. It's even easier. So,
it's not all Red Bull.
It's not it's not all that.
Excellent. And you, Dan?
I think for me, it's got to be one that there's a hotel that wasn't necessarily high on my radar before, but it certainly is now, which I had the opportunity to see when I went out to St Anton in March, or was it end of March, early April, and that was Hotel Tannenhof. I hadn't quite realised how exceptional it really is. I mean, it's very boutique. There's only 7 suites in the whole hotel, and it's got the highest, let's say, staff to guest ratio that I've ever seen. But it never felt overbearing or overly white glove. It was very relaxed, incredibly friendly, and I didn't stay there, but the whole feel of walking around and the rooms were impeccably designed. But I think what was incredible and what really stood out was their restaurant. So I don't know if you're aware, but Austria has now been added to the Michelin Guide. It wasn't previously there before. But they got a new chef at this hotel in January, and within 10 weeks, they went from 0 to 2 Michelin stars, which is, it is
unheard of.
It's such a rapid rate of growth that it's, and I did have a chance to taste some of the food, and you should definitely go. It's really, really amazing. And then coupled that with St Anton, the Arlberg in general, it's one of the largest ski areas in Europe. There's so much skiing opportunity to do there at spring, whether you go over to Lech, whether you stay in St Anton. I, for my sins, don't just ski, but I also snowboard. And there's nothing I quite love more than getting out on my snowboard and in that more slush-like conditions in the afternoon, just spraying it around. And there's loads of opportunity to do that in St Anton. There's beautiful skiing in the mornings, and then world-class après in the afternoon. So headed off to Musava in the afternoon, and I would go back there in a heartbeat, as Rupert says, with a glass, let's say, of rosé. It was a bottle, getting to be able to dance on the tables with that and enjoy the company of friends. Then I think that would be exactly where I would go tomorrow.
The class of that trip just fell off a cliff.
Yes.
Michelin star restaurants and then dancing on a table.
But that's the beauty of St Anton, I think. You can do both and have a great time doing it.
We didn't have anyone dance on table in Zermatt without Rupert with us this year. It was quite,
I know.
quite upsetting.
We missed you.
Sounds like a very civilized event.
That was the problem, yeah. Others made up for it, don't worry. Chaps, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
An absolute pleasure. Spring skiing definitely on radar, definitely on mine now. And I'll be sure to be on next year's FAM and move my daughter's birthday if I have to this time. And hopefully, Rupert, you'll get to join us then as well.
She'll forgive you.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Till next time. See you later.